Back before Pumping Iron, he was known as the Austrian Oak, but he was unknown outside the marginal and misunderstood sport called competitive bodybuilding.
It was a tiny little world, and 300 people would come to the contest that night. They would go crazy over Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he was king of 300 people.
Wow.
It's just that Arnold hadn't burst out of that world yet.
Photographer George Butler and writer Charles Gaines were fascinated with the bodybuilding subculture and collaborated on a book they called Pumping Iron, which featured the young Austrian bodybuilder. Butler wanted to turn it into a film, but Arnold wanted to retire. Since moving to America in 1968, he'd won the sport's top prize, Mr. Olympia, an unprecedented 5 times, and he'd had enough.
George Butler came to me and said, I have a great idea. We should do a movie, but it only will work if you're in it. And if you retire now, you can't be in it, so that doesn't work.
Butler knew the weird and wacky world of bodybuilding had all the makings of a fascinating movie, but how to get investors aboard, it would be a tough sell. It was, after all, the 70s, the height of the counterculture revolution. The last thing on anyone's mind was muscle men.
It gave me a very formidable obstacle to overcome, which is to say, how do I make Arnold Schwarzenegger fashionable in the era in which the most celebrated model in the world was Twiggy? In the back of my mind, I knew that throughout history, there had always been at least one worldwide bodybuilder. Sandow at the turn of the century was one of the highest paid entertainers in the world. Charles Atlas in the 20s and 30s. Steve Reeves in the 50s made a fortune in the movies.
After convincing Arnold to compete for one more Mr. Olympia title, first-time director Butler jumped headfirst into filmmaking.
Take it. You got the 8? 8. Head slate.
Just talk to these 2 guys here.
The concept was simple. Shoot the intense training leading up to the Mr. Olympia, then shoot the competition itself. Just let the story unfold in front of the camera. He started by shooting a test film for investors. In this never-before-seen footage, the first frames ever shot for Pumping Iron, Arnold pumps up backstage for a posing exhibition.
When Nixon gets impeached. It's just too much pressure, you know. I mean, I'm competing now for 10 years, and after 10 years, I feel like it's enough, you know. You have to let other people have a chance, and just leave us a winner.
Yeah. Suppose Louis beats you.
He doesn't. There's no such thing. For years now, since 1970, I was like unbeatable. And there was no hope for anyone to come close. It just didn't exist because I knew once I have the title, there's no way anyone is going to take it.
But if an Arnold win was inevitable, where was the drama? Where was the conflict? Every movie hero has to show his stuff by pushing up against an obstacle. Butler had to find it.
I wanted to find a great antagonist for Arnold, and there was Louis Ferrigno in Brooklyn, New York, 6'8", 270, dark and foreboding.
Muscle magazine publisher Joe Weider had already had his eye on Ferrigno. For Weider, the old story Arnold wins again was growing stale. But a Mr. Olympia showdown between Lou and Arnold, this was perfect, and exactly the kind of rivalry that sells magazines.
He won the Mr. Universe contest in 1974 in Italy. Weider came back, I remember, like it was like a fresh breath of air. With a new champion on the horizon.
Well, I had to stimulate them. You know, when I go into the gym and I saw him pick up 500 pounds, he says, "What do you think, Joe?" I say, "Oh, not bad. You can do better than that." He got mad.
So he will create this whole thing, and you know, and I think it was really good because the fans loved all that, and that's exactly what I played up then in the movie Pumping Iron.